Welcome to Curious City, the podcast from Glasgow Life Museums. I'm David Scott and this is how it works. In each episode we head out into Glasgow discovering stories, objects in the city that surrounds us. This week we're at Kelvingrove Art Gallery Museum and we welcome songwriter and musician Paul Buchanan as our guest. As a member of the Blue Nile and more recently known for his solo material, Paul of course leads Little Introduction, the music he makes deeply rooted in the city itself. Paul, welcome to Kelvingrove and thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure, David. Thanks for having me.
We'd asked you to choose 4 items for the episode that spoke of Glasgow to you, and to get us started you'd chosen the city itself. What does Glasgow mean to you?
It's difficult to be objective when you're hopefully a part of it. I guess what really clinches it for me is my fellow Glaswegians. They're the glue that keep it together. The architecture's fabulous, the greenery, the art gallery, naturally. But yes, the people, everybody just treats you the same. I love it.
Other bands and musicians cite other bands and musicians' influences, but it was the city itself that had a big influence on the way you sounded and the way you wrote.
I mean, I couldn't play very well, so I wasn't in a position to copy anybody, really. We were living the way everybody does at that point in their lives and careers if they're trying to be musicians, so we were broke. But that drives you into circumstances and places that they nurture you, and that's what happened to us. I mean, I wrote a lot of it not far from here, just looking out, sitting in the kitchen looking out onto the Glasgow roofs. I guess I still do that, I sit in the kitchen and look out the window and if it's 3 a.m. and you're awake and there are other lights on, you're thinking, I wonder why they're awake. Why am I awake? Why are they awake? And so you fictionalise clearly, but it's a good place here. It keeps your feet in the ground, but also, there's an existential side to Glaswegian humour as well, and just Glaswegian attitude. They see through things, and I think that's a good discipline to have when you're writing. There's no chance of getting anything past anybody here, so it keeps you on your toes.
So that's at the back of your mind when you're looking out.
It's who you are, it's who you've become. It doesn't matter if it's me or that man there or whatever. We're all the same in that. There's a sort of grit and an honesty, I think, that's crucial, and I would hope that whatever I did, that I would have that in me.
You've talked about looking out over the Glaswegian skyline, but it's not just Glasgow that's evoked for others when they listen to the music.
I would certainly hope so. That's been a rewarding aspect of it. We were fairly stringent when we began. We wouldn't go on TV, and there was minimal marketing. We wouldn't do posters because we wanted to know if what we were doing did resonate with people elsewhere, and the best way to find that out was to stay out of the way and not identify the music with us as individuals or our personalities. And I think to some extent it worked. Not everybody in the world said, gee, I love this, but it was astonishing how, lights kind of lit up in places in the map that you think, wow, that's not Glasgow for sure, but it's what we have in common, and I hope that's in the songs as well.
And you ended up being able to take that out to the world over a long period of time.
I have to be honest and say it's been a slow burn, but I think that probably suited us better than you suddenly flavour of the month and then it's all over. And it's obviously after this long, it's lovely that younger people or older people or people just who haven't heard it are still reacting to it. And I think we tried to make it timeless to an extent, and not use things that would root it in the period that we were making it in, certain sounds or certain production values. We tried to avoid that and find what was universal in the particular.
That's hard work.
Yes, it is. Yeah, you're looking for the ineffable, really, and you can't announce it because that defeats the whole purpose. And of course we remain Scottish, so there would be no scope whatsoever for any fancifulness. I mean, what I'm doing is just what I'm doing, but compared to a parent sitting in a hospital wondering how their kid is, it's nothing. But you take the chance you have and the wee talents that you have and try and express some compassion that's based on your experience, and if you're honest, maybe it'll be of consolation or inspiration to someone else. But I think coming from here helps. I think, there's a mindset here, and but it definitely translates, it transfers. I notice sometimes that people I know come here to visit or to study and they just stay. They just stay. I mean, if we all live here, we all know the downsides of the city, the deprivation, and sometimes the no unrelated violence and aggression that comes with poverty. But I think, as I referred earlier, the democracy and the fact that we're all on the same plane, I like that. I don't like to see any people act as if they're entitled, and I just like being part of it here. If I'm away and I come home and I get in a cab at the airport or whatever, I'm immediately in a conversation, immediately, and I can relate to what the people are saying to me, and they can relate to what I'm saying to them, and wherever you've been, you discuss it in terms that are familiar to both of you. And having that context in your life, that emotional context, I think is it's useful wherever you go, to have that in your back pocket that you're from here.
Walk me into town, the ferry will be there to carry us away into the air, over the hillside, over white water.
Paul, you're somebody who likes coming to museums.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great resource. It's right on your doorstep. Every time you come in, you think, oh, I didn't see that the last time I was here. And when I was coming here today, I was in a taxi and the driver said what we all think, which is, I must go there more often.
And we're standing in front of a piece called the Avon Armour. Paul, Arms and Armour was something you'd chosen to talk about today. What informed that choice?
I remember, seeing these things here when I was a boy or a youth, and just being fascinated with the idea that someone like me, like all of us, would put that on and then, presumably go into battle or go into war. And it's just fascinating to look and think that was a person. They had the same feelings as you did, the same needs and appetites, and they might be stomping around in that, thinking, will I ever see my family again? Am I going to get home again? What's going to happen to me? And it's just incredible. I mean, I don't know how they did it. I couldn't lift the sword. Yeah. The swords are like, how did these people survive this? I found it easy to try and imagine myself in there, in these situations.
I think it's the scale. I mean, there's a lot of things here. There's paintings, there's sculptures, but there's not that many things of this size that are life-size.
I know you look at the armour and you almost unwillingly sort of compare it to yourself and think, could I fit in that? Is that too big for me? Is it too small for me? Clearly it looks too heavy for me. But as I said to you earlier, it is technology. I mean, it's a shame that all that ingenuity and skill, as ever, is devoted to war. But nevertheless, they're remarkable pieces of engineering.
When did you first come to Kelvingrove, Paul? Do you remember when that might have been?
I don't remember specifically, but I know, my folks would have brought me when I was a boy, and certainly I can remember coming probably by myself from maybe I was 14 or 15, just when you're sort of developing your own interests and allowed to go out on your own. So yeah, probably about then. And as I said to you earlier, and looking back now, I realise I had things from here in my room, models of knights and a postcard of Christ the St John of the Cross. So I'd obviously been here, taking these as mementos.
What might be your earliest memories of the museum?
It still smells the same. It smells the same, and I find that extremely comforting. It always smells clean, and it just smells identical. Even the subway smell has changed since I was a boy, but not in here. And that, scent is very evocative. I saw the Mary Quant exhibition and the one before, the Chanel exhibition, and various other things, so you come in, some days the organ is playing, which is breathtaking, obviously. And there's a good sense of community. I think when you come in, people are chatting, and it's disarming because nobody's trying to sell you anything. There's no commerce, there's nothing like that, and it's reassuring that it still smells the same to it.
Why did we ever come so
Okay, we've stepped into a quieter room in the museum now, a change of location. And Paul, for your next choice, we're staying in the West End, and you've chosen Hillhead Library on Byres Road. What's made you choose Hillhead Library?
It's so cosy. I love going in there. I love the atmosphere. As you said, it's on Byres Road, so it's right beside the traffic and surrounded by shops and restaurants, but it's like a refuge. You know, you can go in and you get peace, and you get peace and quiet, and again, nobody's trying to sell you anything, you know, and it's just an incredible resource, really. I mean, to be honest, it took me a long time to get round to using it because, you know, I like to own a book if I'm reading it, but eventually I had so many books that it was just becoming impossible, and I started going to the library, and I absolutely love it. I look forward to going now, and just, you know, you find something that you thought, I never thought of that, I'll give that a shot. And the staff are lovely, and, you know, I don't think we always know how lucky we are to have something like that right literally on our doorstep. I mean, I'm on nodding terms with the librarians, I think. God forgive me, but I can't quite remember if they've changed that fabulous carpet they had, the orange and brown 1970s carpet, which I also loved. But even if they have, it's still a great place. It's peace and it's quiet. I actually went into the one in Partick about a week ago, which is lovely. It's a great space, probably more, I think it's been modernised, so it arguably cosmetically nicer, but yeah, Hillhead's the one that I've got a soft spot for. You know, it's not a vast library, you know, so I usually just sniff around all the same areas. The older I've got, the more gentle my reading has become, so, you know, I'm very selective now, and I'll have a look through, obviously, the modern classics and so on, but I'm equally, if not more likely, to just pick up some little crime fiction book, and, you know, something that's not going to add to the woes of the day. Again, I just think it's something that, you know, people need to know that it's for us. You know, it's the same as the museum and the art gallery. It's for us. They're ours. Yeah. You know, and I saw Billy Connolly on TV in a documentary, and he was talking about how important the library was to him growing up, and he's absolutely right. It's a gateway to other worlds.
Step back out into the museum now. Paul, your final choice this week takes us into the city centre, to the Royal Concert Hall. In 1990, the Blue Nile were the first non-classical artist to play there. How did that come about?
To tell you the truth, we didn't know until we got there, and obviously it was a great honour for us, but we'd only played as a group maybe 10 times, I think, before that. So it was a kind of a baptism of fire, you know, to come back to your hometown and play. It was the first time we'd played in Glasgow, but if you're going to do it anywhere, that was a lovely place to do it. Beautiful acoustics, lovely staff. You couldn't ask for more, and it became a kind of tradition thereafter for us to go and play there. It was kind of like a huge living room. You know, people will speak to you quite openly and directly from the audience. You know, they'll correct you or ask you how you are, or tell you you're looking well or not looking well, and I think again that's that familiarity. You're on the same page with everybody. The concert hall was a kind of platform for that in a way, you know, and we got relaxed there. So, but at the time when we went, I think it was good that we didn't know it was a sort of any sort of opening, because we were nervous enough.
Thinking about the music and the focus, you know, over 5 records, 4 Blue Nile, 1 Paul Buchanan. I mean, the music changed so much, you know, the scope and the feel of all the different records. What kind of things influenced those changes?
The first record, I mean, we were just so isolated, you know, from everyone, which was a blessing, really. And we really had a clear idea of what we wanted it to be. You know, we wanted it to have, you know, a certain monochrome about it, a certain architecture about it, and a certain narrative to go from beginning to end. And the second record, you know, took a while because basically as all bands are, you just get pushed into making the second record. And I think if we'd just put out the first things we did under pressure, that would have been the end of it for us. So we just kind of gritted our teeth really and tried to hold on. Obviously all monies are stopped, and you know, you're locked out of the studio by your own record company and so on, and it becomes this myth that you took X to make a record. It's just not true. But again, we didn't want to spoil the record by saying, oh, here's a complaint attached to the circumstances. So Hats was a different record. You know, we'd been in America by then, and I think it probably reflected some of those experiences. It was a more horizontal record, more different colours on it. Peace at Last was really based on the fact that we felt there was a lot of attention on the technology of Hats, and that wasn't our purpose. And two of us had happened to see the same guitar in a shop on the same day in completely separate incidents in New York. So we got the guitar, and that, you know, that kind of became the basis for that. And the last record, I don't know, I haven't really finished processing that. I guess things were coming to an end, and to some extent, you never really know what the record's about. When I look at it now, I think maybe it was partly we were addressing ourselves on that record. You know, there's a stoicism, I think, about it because we were older. Mid-Air was prompted by a particular set of circumstances, and that was the appropriate instrumentation for that. So, but I've got another record now, so, you know, it's full of jokes. It's kazoo based.
It's kazoo. Look, something we've not talked about is your voice. Your voice is talked about a lot, and the phrasing. If it's not too trite a question, you know, what are you aiming for in a performance?
Again, I think you don't want to get in the way of it. I've done a vocal, and one of the other guys would say, that's too good. You know, they just meant it sounds like singing. I would know it's the wrong person or the wrong character. You're not getting the right visual image of the person who's singing from that voice. So that would be the guideline. You have to just be open. It's not unheard of to go in with, you know, the lyrics all carefully thought out, and it doesn't really work. But you go in and you forget a couple of lines, so you just make something up, and lo and behold, that's what works. I mean, it is to some extent about your unconscious, I think. You know, it's about getting out of the way. I mean, I am in awe of other people who can sing and go out and do it all the time, sing these incredibly difficult songs. For me, I've been lucky. Once in a while I can summon a bit of emotion, and I think that's what people will react to. But again, if it's inauthentic, I wouldn't put it out, and if I did put it out, nobody would like it, because people know.
It's been 40 years since the first Blue Nile record. How does the city continue to influence? How has your writing changed?
Yeah, I think you know, it's the same as everything. You know, sometimes the ball hits you in the head and goes in the net, and the rest of the time you're running about saying, where's the ball, where's the ball? And, you know, it's not that easy to analyse it. I mean, you know, other people get up and go out in the morning and do things that I absolutely rely on, and I try and bear that in mind, that, you know, it's not life and death. Yep. You know, if I write a song or not.
What drives you to keep writing, to keep making music?
I don't know. I do wonder at that myself. You know, maybe when you're starting out, you know, it's a bit more of the Blues Brothers, you know, we're on a mission from God kind of thing, and then you get to another part of your life and you think, no, these are just my psychological wounds that I'm expressing. But I don't honestly know. The thing I can relate it closest to in popular culture is in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where the Richard Dreyfuss character feels compelled to build something out of mud and ashes in his living room because he realises the aliens are coming. I don't think there are aliens necessarily coming, but it's the same compulsion. You think it has to be this shape, and it has to be this colour, and it has to be this way, and then it's a question of looking for that. I'm sure it's the same for painters, you know, that they'll paint something, then they'll paint over it, and they'll undo it, and paint it again, and paint over it, and it is the same, I think. But you know, when you get there, you know, you think, I found a common ground here, and it's not about me, and then that's when you let go. I mean, I wouldn't lay any claim to anything except, you know, that there's some nagging thing that makes you want to get that a particular way, when actually, you know, it would be easier to say, you know what, that sounded pretty good, let's just leave it alone. I regret the time involved in it, you know, and I regret my own waywardness and my own tendency to obsess over details that probably won't matter. But it's all therapeutic, and it's all in a sense about giving yourself permission, and that might be a Scottish thing as well. I think that you have to know there's no baloney here, you know, there's nothing. It's not, I'm not showing off, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that, I'm not doing anything. I'm just keeping this as plain and simple. And I think if you do that, which people deserve, you know, then you've got a chance with some people. You know, you hear things on the radio or you see things on TV and you can tell the intention behind them immediately. And sometimes it's, you know, the intention is just to get money from people. And I think in the blizzard that we're all caught up in, you know, of advertising and money and technology and everything else, it's like the library. It's great to just think, you know, everybody's not chasing the same number. Some people want something else, and I think, you know, in your own tragic way, that's what, you know, I was trying to do. You just want to say, you know, I was also wondering if this was a possibility, and that's all you're doing. And I'm not saying they write themselves, because that makes it sound like it's something grand, but it is when you manage to set yourself aside. I think Duke Ellington said you have to say it without saying it, and that's what you're trying to do. You know, once in a while, if you try and see it all the way, it connects to other people at some unconscious level, and that's really what you're after, that existential moment that art and music can also give you. Another person that you don't know can say, you know what, I feel that too.